We're so excited. Welcome back to Go AI. And we have a fantastic guest today, Jermaine Watkins. He's spent over 20 plus years building custom software and applications, and he has been very intricate with or been involved with AI for decades. Is that fair to say, Jermaine?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into AI.
So I think I've been a serial entrepreneur just trying to figure out how to solve problems and how to solve business problems. And I think just figuring out how to leverage technology to get there. So I think that has taken me on the path of entrepreneurship and technology. And yeah, and I've always loved computers. And I knew like since the third grade, I was going to be like a computer programmer.
Well, and
And
tell me about you didn't I know you're being modest here. You won an award for was it IBM or
Yeah, so we won for Weather Check, we won an IBM award for like weather. Like I've won tons of like hackathons and
you're
all.
being
Yeah,
modest. Tell Okay, so you mentioned WeatherCheck.
yes,
WeatherCheck was a company that you built and then exited?
yes.
Okay. Is it what year? When was that?
So I left Weather Check in 2022, I think.
Okay.
We started in 19,
Oh wow.
and then it transitioned to Capital.
Okay.
Um,
And then since then, what have you been up
Since
to?
then, helped out with Susan at Demeter Logistics for a little bit.
Okay.
And then recently, I've been working on OwlThat, which has been more like AI focused and trying to figure out like AI and the next big tool and like how it can be used and like where is it going to be like effective. And I've just been exploring. So like I started out with like an AI chatbot that you could just like talk to, and then I've like moved to like 18 different ideas of like different AI things, just
Mhm.
kind of learning the tool and how to use it,
Mhm.
just trying to settle in on the idea that I want to move forward with for my
That's
next startup.
That's incredible. And I know you're being very, very modest because you have, before WeatherCheck, I believe you've built other businesses.
Yeah, Blue 22, Supply Arc. Blue 22 was like an environmental site survey for like an Elance for environmental professionals, and then Bluegrass Aquatics, where we sold online tropical fish, and we had like a fish farm
It's
in
incredible.
Florida. Yeah, I've been starting tons of businesses, I guess.
Yeah, but well, to your point, you like solving problems.
Yeah,
So whether it's, fish, weather, etc.,
yeah.
you want to solve it. So it's really remarkable. And from being, in this industry and space and building, and being a successful serial entrepreneur, when you think about AI, I mean, again, there's buzzwords out there, ML. People get often confused between the two, but what comes to mind for you when someone says AI?
I think the real big takeaway is I think that like a lot of tedious work can go to the side, or and you can allow computers to do a lot of that work. So if we took the example of like farming,
Mhm.
like back 100 years ago, a lot of people were farmers, and that's how we got our food supply. And I think the economy is ready for another shift of where you don't need a million farmers, you only need maybe like 1,000 farmers to farm. But then
Mhm.
I think that gives humans the ability to figure out other jobs to do that might be at a better and higher use of or quality of their time.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Could you walk us through, because you've been in tech for so long, just your experiences with the AI up to now, and specifically up to the release of ChatGPT when it became like
Super cool.
universally known as a technology?
Yeah, I think you really never really know whether a technology is like a fad or not,
Mhm.
right? Like, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of hype. There are a lot of
Mhm.
people starting startups that raise a bunch of money that sell a dream, right? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's your
Not
job,
revenue.
right?
Mhm.
Right. Then that's your job. You put together a pitch deck and you sell a dream. You sell it as hard as you
Mhm.
can, right?
Yeah.
And I think as it's become more productive and it's actually solving real life, I think you can start to see the real practical implications and how it's really gonna be like an internet change, or like where there's like profound where the technology can actually impact have a like a meaningful impact on people's lives.
Where were you when you first got on the internet? I remember where I was. I wanna know.
I think I probably at my high school playing Grand Theft Auto in
Wow.
my pre-engineering class.
Oh,
Like,
that's nice. Okay.
my engineering teacher would just let me hang out in there, and I would do all kinds of crazy things down there, I guess, in that lab.
Yeah, that's amazing. So high school is when
Yes.
you really started
Yeah, I
getting
think
into
that's
it.
when I got my first like Yahoo email account.
Yep. That's awesome. That's so cool. So tell us a little bit about, you know, again, serial entrepreneur, where the technology is today. Is there a business or an industry that you feel is not prepared for AI?
I think a lot of people are just not aware of its capabilities, right? Like, there are a lot of stuff that goes on in labs, and I get to see some of that stuff in the labs just because of being a YC founder.
Okay.
So you get a lot of early access to like a lot of technology, and you can kind of.
Explain what that is to our audience.
So YC with WeatherCheck, we were invited into the YC, which YC is an accelerator with a bunch of founders. That build a bunch of companies. So,
That's
but
so
it's just
cool.
kind of like a community. But there's forums and there's group chats and there's constant communication that's like going on that like people are like explaining and we have talks. It's just like a community that's just like
Building.
yeah, that's just building. Yeah,
That's amazing. All
exactly.
over the world or just here in
Yeah, so I
Louisville
think
or
there's like 3,000 founders, but they're like the founders of like Airbnb, Dropbox.
okay,
Uh,
so how cool is that that you're just like messaging the founder of Dropbox on a typical Monday for Jermaine?
yeah, so like there's this YC group chat for like CTOs, and it's amazing of like just the conversations that like we're always talking about, like, oh, I ran into this problem. Does anybody know? And it's just like a constant like thread of just like information. Like it's hard to keep up with like
I
as
bet.
many people are like texting in that group.
I bet.
What are some of the dominant themes related to AI among those CTOs
Well,
conversations?
one benefit of being a YC is that OpenAI, Sam Altman was
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's part of the group. So then you get credits. So then it's like, all right,
Mhm.
they'll give you credits to like play around and like really explore. Where it's like, okay, I don't have to have an economic incentive to be paying all this.
Mhm.
I get to play for
For free.
for
Yeah.
free, right? So
Yeah.
then it's like, all right, well, I can make these toys and see what might work and what might not work, right?
And then do you give feedback?
I
Or
mean, you
no?
can ask them for feedback. So they
Okay.
have like Slack groups that are like dedicated, that kind of like help. Um, yeah, that kind of help, or you can ask questions and things like that. But I think
Okay.
most of your feedback normally comes from your customers, or that's what
Mhm.
they try to teach you is like,
Yeah.
talk to your customers,
Talk to
right?
your users.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. That's amazing. So tell us, I know you're building always every day, but right now you have a company called OwlThat,
Yes. So I've been transitioning it around, but now I think I've really settled on. Um,
which I love, obviously, Guardian.
Yeah.
building AI around a communications tool or like a CMS. So I think there's a lot of like grunt work that happens. So I've been working with an event space, and then actually Good Bounce to like
Yeah.
help like
Shout
answer.
out to John Flauter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, to like answer their telephones, answer emails, answer text messages, and try to integrate AI in some of that communication. So the sales process and the leads that has to, that most of those businesses are typical service businesses go through.
Well, you're gonna have to back up because I think a lot of the people that listen to our podcast are small to medium-sized business owners, and that's the biggest thing, that we hear is, okay, managing emails, managing phone calls, especially, for, let's say, multi-unit apartment complexes, answering phone calls that are like 911 versus, "Hey, I just need this door fixed or a handle fixed." So, like, just the urgency of, routing those calls efficiently, booking.
Hmm.
So, you mentioned event space, but like being able to book things, whether it's online or via the phone or text, quickly, that's something that AI can do that humans don't necessarily need to be involved and oversee.
Yeah, so like AIs are really good at like they call it tool usage. So
Okay.
like you can kind of program it to like, all right, this is how you do a booking, or this is how you answer an email, or this is how you send a text message. And then once you like train it on that tool, you can then kind of start either so a lot of people get confused with like agent workflows, which is like a predefined like set of tasks
Okay.
versus what they call like an agent, which is like agentic that's making its own decisions, right? But I think most businesses are more in the workflow phase right now where they have a process that they want to be followed. And they just want the AI to kind of help move that along.
Mm.
Would you say that's more automation or AI or a little both?
I think it's a mix of automation and AI because it's like, all right, you might automate a text message, but then you might customize that text message based on so like the event space, like, oh, you're having a birthday party with 50 guests, you're having this type of theme. You can like personalize those messages more to be like, hey, we're looking forward to your birthday party and your 40 guests that are coming, with the theme of Hawaiian shirts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think you can get to more like customized messaging, right? Where I think you can have a more impact on your customer.
Of course.
Um, and make them feel that there's more of a relationship there
That
than
makes sense.
just like generic, hey, thanks for you know having your event at our space.
And do you think a lot of, I mean, businesses that you meet with have adopted like this type of technology, or do you think there's still a big gap between?
I think a lot of them are unaware of the capability. So like at first they'll be like, oh, here's the IVR I want to give you. And I'm like, well, you really don't have to give it like a preset because the AI can really just answer a lot of questions and transfer the calls where they need to and can just answer it like a live person almost could.
Really?
And I think it's just people seeing those demos and actually interacting with it and having that first experience at like how AI is actually growing at such a fast pace. And then like every couple months, there's always like another breakthrough, like Sesame or like in the voice, like even just in the voice or the image to text, or like it's hard to keep up with just like
Mhm.
how fast some of the tools are coming out. So I think,
And that's coming from you.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, that should give everybody a little bit like
Mhm.
relief that we're not going to be able to keep up, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's probably the hard part is that it's moving so much faster, but I think it's also moving faster because it's giving developers, um, you don't not that you don't have to write code, but you can ask the AI to write a lot of code and you can do a lot of thinking higher level, and that's what I think is gonna is a good example of like the shift. So like I don't like if I need a function to write something, I can ask AI to write this function. Well, that might have took me an hour or two, or maybe I got stuck on a bug and that would hold me back 4 hours. But now I can spend like 40 seconds and have like ChatGPT be like, oh, this is where the bug is, right? And it just speeds along that development. And I think that's what's also driving some of the development in AI. It's just that the tool is helping, like, develop itself kinda.
What are your thoughts on reasoning models and the shift toward these models that kind of go beyond the large language models, large language models that we're used to, where you just give a prompt, boom, there's text or there's an image, and ones that kind of go through more complex questions to give more complex, potentially more deep answers.
Mhm.
What impact do you see that having?
I think that that has a that's made the models more smarter, or not necessarily smarter, but just like so the first models were just predicting the next text, and they were
Mhm.
really good at predicting the next text because it read everything on the internet and it could regurgitate it all back to you. But now with the reasoning, it'll ask itself more in-depth questions that you might not have asked that you're just assuming. Like a lot of real good answers from like ChatGPT come with like giving it correct context. So it's able to be like, oh, this person, it's able to fill in some of that context that you might have left out by just like generally assuming or trying to reason to that example, which then helps give a better answer. Like a lot of um, just like the basic input in is input out, right? So it's just like the kind of prompt that you give it will determine the type of like answer you get out. When some people are like, "Oh, check," it's kind of not that special, or the emails kind of aren't the way I talk. But it's like, all right, like if you were to ask ChatGPT to like analyze your emails and break down what kind of tone this person has and do an analysis, and then feed that back to be like, "Okay, now write like me," it'll probably do a better job at, like, impersonating, like, your style and your tone.
That
Mhm.
makes sense.
That connects pretty well to what you're going to be doing shortly, which is teaching about prompting.
Yes.
So, can you tell us what you've learned and just the insights that you have about good prompting? Because that's really for a lot of business owners, a lot of it is just your input can determine the output pretty strongly, just the quality of the input. So, what insights about prompting do you have?
Yeah, that's one thing I try to kinda talk to my daughter. It's like, you need to kinda, like, have a like, don't just expect ChatGPT to, like, give you the answer. It's more like you should explore a conversation with the AI and kinda dig down that rabbit hole to really get to better answers, right? Like it's like, all right, so what questions should I be asking? What framework should I be following? Like some of the prompts I use are like, hey, what are the top three frameworks for solving this problem? And then it's like, okay, so using this framework, how would I solve this problem that I'm currently having? And then I kind of use that framework or other existing knowledge to kind of get to a better answer than just um, like, for example, the venue space was like, write an event contract. Well, it's like, all right, well, what's a good event contract for Kentucky?
Ooh.
Like, oh, they don't really have an alcohol license. So like, how do we exclude alcohol and like what's the best way to do it, right? When we're like, I think it saves a lot of time is that like then I can send that to the lawyer and be like, all right, I've kind of had all the questions I've got or that I've thought. Is there
Mhm.
anything missing? And then it
Mhm.
like saves you on billable
I was just
hours,
gonna
right?
say that
Mhm.
you
versus
have
versus the
started
back
great.
and forth, right? Of like, all right, so what is like person corporate veil or like being able to just ask questions or like what are the risks in this contract? Like what are
Mhm.
like here, review this lease and like what what are the risks in this contract if you were the owner of the property or how would you make this lease better or like there's certain things that you can kind of do with AI, I think, that just sprinkle throughout a business.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
and I know, Connor, you touched on it that, Jermaine, you were
Yeah.
teaching at the University of Louisville. And
Yes.
what are the classes prompts?
One will be on AI prompting, and another one will be on AI agent building. So, like, being able to have an agent go out and either do a workflow, and then one on like autonomous, so where the agent makes his own decisions. So I'm thinking about like doing like a social media where like it posts and make
Mhm.
like
Oh, please.
no one
Okay, you're gonna
likes.
have to come back. Yeah.
Like, that's one of my biggest things, like, I'm like, "Oh, man, I hate doing social media posts," but they're like, "You need to post 3 times a day," and
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was like, "Well, maybe I can make an agent that posts 3 times a day," and
Mhm.
then there we go, and I just, like, approve it, or
Mhm.
maybe I don't even need to approve it, it's just gonna post for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so okay, you're going to be teaching students. Obviously, business owners or executives are usually working,
Mhm.
so they might not be able to take that course. Is there anywhere that you'd recommend, whether it's a publication or an online source or a book, that business owners right now who want to learn about agents and want to learn about how this is applicable to their business should go?
That's a good question. So, like, a lot of my research is, like, reading a lot of the AI papers, so there are a lot of papers that come out. And then I think a lot of engineers read those papers and those studies and then build products based off those papers.
Where
Uh,
do you find those?
I actually follow a guy on YouTube that goes through because there's like hundreds of AI papers that are released that, and he kind of like sums it down. I wish I could remember his name, but it's like he kind of gives a brief review of what the paper is, and then
Mhm.
normally I'll go in the chat GPT
Mhm.
and
And
take
be
the
like, "Give
link
me
of
a
the
summary."
paper
Mhm.
and yeah, give it a
Mhm.
summary. Or the our Google has a good what's called Notebook LM where it turns
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
into a podcast. So then normally I'll if I like the paper on the summary, I'll turn it into a podcast and just try to
Mhm.
listen to it to kind of like stay up. But if I were a business owner, I think
Well, you are, but you know what I
yes,
mean? If
yeah.
you're speaking
I'm
to
trying to
how's this? If you're speaking to a business owner that doesn't know how to build things like you.
I don't think there's it's like I that's so I would probably say like YouTube or
So
TikToks
okay,
or
this is awesome that you're saying this.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
uh
sometimes I'm like, I got my news. And I'm like,
and
actually, this.
sometimes Twitter, but that's this can be sometimes more publicity than ever. But
Yeah.
yeah, probably YouTube and TikTok, like trying to find a good AI person that's like disseminating the news.
Mhm.
Because I think it's moving so fast and like some areas won't apply to you. Like
Yeah.
maybe some people don't care about like image generation where
Mhm.
like some people do care about video generation
Hmm.
versus voice advancements. Like I think it's whatever area you're kind of really trying to focus on your business problems.
So I love that you not only do you build with this technology, but then you also are a practitioner of using all these things in your daily life to create efficiencies. And
Mhm.
so, um, we talk to people that haven't yet used ChatGPT because, or used, little things like Gemini, and because they are they're so busy with kind of the way they've always done things, and it is a habit,
Mhm.
right, builder. So, what would you say to somebody who's listening that has yet to try any type of AI tool?
I think they should I think they should try. Like I think there's so many small areas that it can help you. Like one thing I like to do even in my personal life is I like to upload the Kroger PDF of like what's on sale and
Ooh.
then my wife has a dietary restriction of like she doesn't like dairy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I feel her.
so then
Yes.
I'm like, all right, come up with recipes. I like cheese. She doesn't
Mhm.
like easy meals that I can separate, but kinda cook at the same time, but the last step is a little different.
You can add cheese to yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but that's brilliant, and I
Mhm.
mean, I think you were saying, like, you can upload the Kroger PDF to
Mhm.
see what sales,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
mean, that's
yeah. So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, and then help it to make, like, my grocery list for the week or a grocery list for the week.
Okay, that's see, practical example of where you can start, you all.
Mhm. So you mentioned earlier just how quickly AI is developing in the tools. What are you excited to see advancements wise over, say, the next year or even couple years?
I think really just the integrations, right? So,
Mhm.
like, the more integrations like, I think it's actually pretty decent where it is now. Like, even if
Mhm.
it didn't advance any further
Mhm.
today, I think that once more and more tools are integrated and services are integrated, I think, that we'll have better, like, outcomes on that.
What do you think from a legislation standpoint? I mean, you mentioned, like, the image generators, video, and obviously it's moving so fast. Legislation is not moving as fast. So do you foresee anything disruptive there?
From the so I know that they had some executive orders around AI that they, like, pulled and
Mhm.
bounced back and forth. Um, I think government knows how important it's gonna be, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if the legislation. Yeah, I'm not positively sure on like what legislation is like needed to
Mhm.
um have equity, right? Or like
Mm.
around like those are really big topics. So like if you talk
Exactly.
about like legislation, you could be talking about like equity and things. So like one
Mhm.
thing about like being a YC founder,
Mm.
I had early preview access to like open AI models.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So while that's good, like is it okay for just like a certain group of people to have access to intelligence?
Mhm.
Or like should there be legislation around it?
Or like watermarks that say like AI generated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those
Yeah,
are the
yeah, yeah.
types of
So like
things
all right,
where,
so like
or if
I'm
you built something but you used a like technology, can you then patent it, or is it generated by AI
right,
like
or
that?
even the voice clones like
Mhm.
are getting better. So if I clone an artist's voice and I'm like, hey, I wrote this nice song and then
Mhm.
it's a hit, is it mine? Is it theirs?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Okay.
um,
It's like the
yeah,
Wild Wild West.
yeah. I think it is. Like, I think there are probably a lot of big issues that are gonna come from that, but
Mhm.
I think we'll have to run into the problems to realize how we solve those.
Mhm.
Well, I love that. Tell us a little bit about, you know, there you mentioned earlier in our conversation, there's a lot of, and I might be paraphrasing, but
Mm.
enterprises that are incorporating AI, not as many small to medium-sized businesses. Is that cost?
I think it's just having access sources to the resources, right?
Okay,
Where I think a lot of enterprises know that this is the opportunity, and if they're not careful, they'll be extinct.
got it.
So, like, I think they know that they're fighting for extinction. I think for a lot of small businesses, it's a lot of information to keep up with, and like, how do I actually practically apply it? Like, no
Exactly.
one, I think, like you're saying, it's the Wild West. So I don't think there are a lot of guides that say, hey, these are some steps that you can do, or these are some capabilities that make sense in people's businesses
Hmm.
that have been explored and documented. I think some people that are ahead are like, I'm ahead. I'm not going to mention that I'm ahead. I'm just going to
Yeah.
win.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, it's a race. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
So I think, so I don't know if many businesses are sharing their successes. And then I think some businesses, you know, there's the open source community that is sharing and, it is spreading it. So, yeah, all that to say, yeah, I think for small businesses, I think it's probably just about resource constraint that is always a problem,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
that's nothing new.
Mhm. So, how that is strongly related to just chatbots in general.
Yeah, so I started the company just because I knew I needed it. I knew I wanted it to start an AI company, and it's morphed into a bunch of different ideas. Like, I originally started out. With texting the chatbot, so being able to just to talk to it, and then, I opened that up to the public, and I was like, "Oh, that's a little cringe conversations." I'm like,
Really?
we move
Oh.
a different direction." So then,
Mhm.
I was like, "I don't wanna be sued." So then it's
Yeah,
like,
fair enough.
then I moved over to, being able to text my chart and ask questions about, like, my medical health records and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's cool.
Mhm.
But then I noticed that my chart is really owned by a big company, and they're like, I don't think they're gonna allow a lot of like AI applications to like play in their
Mhm.
arena. So I was like, there's probably too
Maybe I should be
much,
careful. Or yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, or just too much, not legislation, but just too much,
red tape,
not red tape, what they call it, when an industry just has too much control,
a monopoly.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
fair enough.
So so
Yeah.
Mhm.
so then I moved to, like, more communication tools for businesses. Well, I started more consumer, but then I realized that the real value is probably providing to, businesses that you can solve real problems for right now, like answering the phones or answering emails or answering
Mhm.
text message are like helping them in the sales lead process, that's probably a more sustainable business right now.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
and that's revenue
Yeah.
generating, right? So
It's a direct ROI versus
Mhm.
like, well, it can help me with my Kroger shopping. Like, am I gonna pay for that?
Mhm.
Like, or
yeah.
yeah, yeah, or it can help me plan out my summer vacation, but will I pay for that? I probably not.
What are some of the biggest challenges in that area?
Just really, I think nailing the prompt for the nailing the prompt because like
Mhm,
different businesses have different tones that they want to speak to customers,
mhm,
Sure.
and then when and where they want to interact, like
mhm,
and at what cadence. So understanding like, all right, they want to send a text message and an automated call, but like what's the spacing between that? Or what's the like how does it figure out the timeline of like how to communicate to a customer? Like you don't want to call them and then send them a text message and then send them an email all in the same minute about like, hey, did you check out our website or did you book? Right? Like I think that that's probably been one of the biggest challenges trying to solve is like what is the appropriate timeline to get a customer to like close? What is the appropriate amount of communication that a customer wants to receive? How much of the AI does a customer really want to talk to? When does an actual person really need to be involved? So, like in the venue space, a lot of it is automated up front, but like when they do the viewing, that's done in person. But I think that helps draw a more personal touch to the viewing about like how does the actual person that's going to be here to help me if something were to go wrong.
mhm,
That makes a lot of sense to
Yeah.
me.
mhm,
So, okay, you're building these, obviously you have OwlThat. You clearly have, I'm thinking, an events company that's using
Hmm.
this technology. I know how much like ChatGPT is to subscribe to every month. If you could give a range of small to medium sized businesses and what, whether it's by month or year, they should be investing in this technology, whether it's like a company like OwlThat or something else. Can you give some numbers here? Because a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it has become more affordable because of people like you. What's realistic? What should I expect?
I think it's kind of hard
I
because
know.
each business is a little bit of its own, but I think you should just start identifying areas of where it can solve problems for you and find tools that m solve that problem,
Okay.
right? Like, so there are
Mm.
tons of, like, tools. So if you search for, like, an AI tool that does this or that, you'll probably run into it or
But there's so many that feel like fake or spammy or like they might not be real. So are there any that you know have a good reputation and that maybe you use or that people should look to use?
um,
All that and
yeah.
then
Yeah, I like to just directly interface with the model directly and
okay.
make my own tools, but then I'm a programmer, so
Yeah, that doesn't
there's
count,
there's
Jermaine.
there's a certain bias there, but yeah, I think each business, it just kinda depends on if that tool really solves your problem.
And then depending on how much it is, being
Yeah,
able to kind of, do the cost benefit analysis.
right,
Okay.
exactly. Like,
Makes
I think it's just like any other piece of software that you're gonna add to your business, right? Like, just try to it's same about I don't think it's any different, because of the AI capabilities. I think it's still the same evaluation process, like what's my ROI? Like, what's the cost of implementing it? What's the cost of maintaining it? Do they support it? Right? Like the
exactly, the
same
support.
questions
Mhm.
that you would ask. Like, do I have internal support or will I need external support? Right? Like, I think it's just the same as any software. It's just software that can think now, I guess.
I love that.
What would just be a good general message that you would like to put out to business owners about AI who are curious about AI business owners?
That I think it can solve some of your problems, right? And then remove some of the tedious work that exists in your business, like really freeing up your employees to focus on more strategic and more high value activities, right? Like I think about the venue space, right? Like answering people, like he's probably answered 400 times how big is his venue space, right? Like versus like, all right, he's got a like his time is probably better served personally showing off the space and the space that he's built, and really doing more high value target task.
With
Uh,
his time.
yeah, with
Yes,
his times,
absolutely.
right? Versus like, all right, oh, I didn't respond to this person, so they won't use my business. When it's like, oh, if I only responded in a timely fashion when this because like a lot of people now are like, hey, I talked to you. I want it now. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
like if Amazon could deliver in 12 hours, you can give me a quote on exactly what I want
Mhm.
in 15 minutes. So I think a lot of this generation expects stuff now. And if you
Mhm.
can like, but as a business owner and maybe, you know, you are only having a slim number of employees, that's a lot of weight to put on you to like to respond in like a timely manner, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jermaine, this has been wonderful. I feel like you're a fire hose of such intellectually stimulating conversation. We could sit here all day. But how do people contact you? Where do they go?
Most of my contacts can just contact me on LinkedIn
LinkedIn?
or OwlThat.com.
Mhm.
There's a phone number on there. You can just give me a call.
Perfect. We're going
Mhm.
to put that in the show notes, everyone. So OwlThat.com,
Yeah.
Jermaine Watkins on LinkedIn. Jermaine, any final words for our audience?
Don't be afraid of AI. It's just
Yes.
a new tool that I think just like the internet and calculators,
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
not gonna kill your job. It's
Mhm.
just, there's a calculator now that can figure out formulas, right? It's
Just
just
use
the
it now.
evolution.
Use it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jermaine.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys.